different. A is objects flying unidentified of mystery. There. So that's an introduction to Marx's performance that will be happening in a moment. They took a Dutch Edam and they hid the message that this was going to happen, and they smuggled the message to the brother of the aristocrat who was on the ground with the troops, and so then, yeah, that was how a Dutch cheese, ironically, which is also a colonial cheese because it doesn't really go stale, it just stays much like this, and it was used on ships. It was pretty much developed so that the Dutch could go and conquer the world. So this colonial cheese, if anyone wants to take a bite, so I wasn't sure where I was, but the trolley was taking me to these locations, and the kind of dislocations, like British spaces within Dutch spaces, within Swiss spaces, within Swiss, or not Swiss cheeses, within Dutch cheeses, and so it was disorientating. And the next object that the trolley took me towards was this original smash. And I was thinking about origins. I was thinking about terre, the pomme de terre, the territory, and I was thinking about how when we were cavemen, it was impossible to eat the potato. It did also later take me towards a potato. It probably would have been the other way around. Thought about it. So the pomme de terre, it tells a story of civilization, essentially. There was a potato, and the potato didn't, it was not edible, it couldn't sustain life, it's poisonous, and then man discovered fire, and so we became, rather than foraging on our own as cavemen and hunting on our own, we developed language because we had fire and we had to cook, and so this is why, like, society evolved and we had to share what we cooked, and then there was utopia kind of there in between the potato and the smash, but the smash sort of reversed all that. There was a point where this togetherness and this sharing and this kind of communication went right back, and now there's only, it's called bachelors, so it kind of brings that loneliness and isolation out. And although now we had no jaw because we'd kind of evolved a smaller jaw because we didn't need to bite stuff so much, and we had a bigger brain, we just left with this massive brain on our own and this tiny jaw eating the smash. And so we locate utopia, this kind of utopia means nowhere, somewhere between the potato and the smash. Smash, of course, being the kind of spam of potato, the form, there's many potato bodies within that. A crowd form of potato, the OSB board, the MDF of the potato world. And then the next thing, it started as the trolley moved, the things that it was showing me were more of an existential interpretation of where I would be. And this is the next thing. Is smart water, so it's not. It's almost like a digital water, and water you find is very prone to taking on ideology or meaning. That's why homeopathy is available on the NHS, and the memory of this very conceptual approach. And this is said on it, inspired by clouds, which I thought was nice because if you're like eating meat, you don't think it's inspired by animals. It kind of is animals, isn't it? So yeah, I didn't know where I was then. I was somewhere. I was in John's cloud. I was somewhere elsewhere. And then the trolley took me further and. To this, which is called Fuel Your 10K. It's a nice snappy name for a breakfast drink, and it refers to Malcolm Gladwell, the kind of self-help guru who decided that it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert in something, whatever that is, ballet, chess, anything. You can become an expert, you have to put 10,000 hours in. And what I liked about it was that, firstly, the Cyclops, oh look, it matches, the Cyclops eye, because what it's doing is saying that the destination is the drudgery, there is no deliverance, you don't need the deliverance, this journey, and it's quite accurate in a way, and it's sort of like the worker, the rhythm of the worker becomes the aim of the worker, and as you know, the Cyclops doesn't have any depth perception because it can't see in 3D because it doesn't have that gap, which is why things are 3D. And so it's not aiming anywhere, it just is there. And so I thought, and of course we don't need a stomach anymore. Not only have we got no chins, we've got no stomach. We're becoming this thin air. So I didn't know exactly where I was. It took me to a non-food item. In fact, it took me to both these Pro Plus and the Nitol, and they were next to each other, and it was unclear as to which one I was heading towards, and it seemed to be guiding me to try both at the same time, as if somehow that would be a way of achieving a kind of equilibrium. And so, took one earlier, but I'm going to take one again, and then I'll hand it around, and if anyone wants to join me in this place, in between place. So that was kind of where I was at, and then as we approached the end of the store, there was this area where everything was reduced, like the marketing department areas, the kind of people have been fired for not researching properly, that sort of archive of these failures of capitalism, and then took me to this reduced Tabasco sauce chocolate, and it told me a story about Tabasco. The trolley told me the story about Tabasco and how, like, it's in Mexico, but this banker in Louisiana had got some seeds from peppers from Tabasco, the state, from a Confederate soldier that was returning from protecting Texas from Mexico, that was having a bit of a confidence boost at the moment, and they were worried that maybe it might try and take Texas again. And so on his way back, he kind of gave some of these pepper seeds to the man in Louisiana who invented Tabasco sauce by growing some on his ex-slave estate, and his ex-slaves kind of helped him, which was nice and generous of them. And so like many years later, this has evolved, and it's a place. It's Louisiana, but there's also Tabasco, but he owns the patent now for, or his descendants own the patent for a place, Tabasco. The place itself does not have a right to its own name in a way, because it's the intellectual property of this man in Louisiana. So what I want to do is to celebrate that, and to almost just to really give it a bit of a confidence boost and take it out of its only 10% of its previous value, for us all to hand it round and have like a taste. It is the destination, really. It became clear when I saw it says "finally together," and it seemed like this is what I had been searching for. So we'll eat some and share some, and just share a moment of thought about location and territory and pondered territory and bits. Thanks.
No, it's really spicy food.